All right, everyone, let's get started this morning. So first off, I just want to welcome our friends from Autodesk, the Inventor team specifically for joining us this morning. As you can see on camera right now, we've got Garen. How's it going, Garen? Good.
I'm good, thanks.
Awesome. So Garen's one of the senior product managers over at Autodesk who work on the Inventor product itself. I know last week we talked about Vault, and the previous week we talked about what's new in AutoCAD 2021 as well. So definitely, I know this is one that a lot of people have told me they're most excited about. So I'm really excited to help facilitate the Autodesk team to share what's new in the software. Additionally, we've got a couple of other people on the Autodesk team as well who are going to be able to answer some questions for us too. So we have our good friends here, Chris Mitchell, Dan Szymanski, Kyle Gillum, and Lauren Welch. They're going to be answering questions in the background. If you guys want to fire up your camera, say hi to everybody, you're more than welcome to during the webinar. Yeah, so definitely a full house today. Really excited to see what's going on in Inventor 21. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Garen. If anyone has any questions, definitely feel free to stop us at any time by placing a question in the chat box or within the dedicated question section that you have on the streaming that you are on. So Garen, go ahead and take it away.
Great, thanks, Nigel. Garen Gardner. We're really excited to work with KETIV to highlight what's new in Inventor 2021. A lot of these projects are projects we've been working on for the last year and a half, even 2 years. So we love getting them in front of you guys and see what you guys do with it. So with that, just real quick, if we look over the last 3 years. We've actually added over 370 user-driven enhancements in the product. And many of us here on the call have been at Autodesk 15 plus years and, kind of seen the transition of kind of the old development to the newer development where, we're getting feedback from you guys far earlier in the cycle, being able to react to those type of feedback loops, and then also being able to put in point releases with extended capability. So not just dropping a release in March once a year with updates, but we're able to add incremental value throughout the year. And due to that, we're seeing 3x faster adoption on our updates. Year over year, we're just seeing more and more customers that are downloading the updates, being current on the newest release. And we wanted to show a couple of data points around that. So, I know we get questions from time to time, kind of, what does it look like for adoption of newer releases? And I don't have specific numbers here. We're just really looking at the overall trends. But if we look back at 2018, kind of the trend from when we launched in March to August, so that first 7 months, this is what it looks like. If we look at 2019, you can see that over the first 7 months, 2019 outperformed 2018 as the most used product in that first 7 months. No surprise, 2020 did as well, but the 2020 actually made history for us. It's the first release that within the first 7 months became the most widely used product that year. So what I mean by that is 2019, the most popular product or most used product during that year was 2018. So it's usually the previous release. 2020, after the first 7 months, we had enough adoption that we had more customers using 2020 than other products. So that was a huge milestone for us, and we're very excited about that. And looking at 2021, we're actually seeing higher adoption in 2021 than even 2020. And that's despite all the turmoil and everything that's going on today. So, we feel like 2021 has a lot of value. We've had a lot of feedback from many of you, what we've added into the product, and we'll jump in and show a lot of that today. When we're developing, kind of looking at the next release of the product, we often kind of look at Inventor as a whole in 3 groups: professional grade, and this is really the meat and potatoes of Inventor. These are the assembly capabilities, part modeling, sketching, sheet metal, all the key things that you need that really allow you to get your job done. We also look at connected. We have a number of Autodesk products that we like to make sure that they're connected, allow you to work between these other applications, work amongst different groups, and even with your customers. So, if you think about things like Forge and, these extended tools as well. So, we don't want to, with connected, we're not just looking at Inventor, we're looking at, how can we connect you across different workflows. And then Inventor Experience, some of this is around modernization, some of this is around, the feedback that we get from you guys, that loop of, you guys providing feedback, what's most important to you, whether that be through the idea station, whether that be through inside the factories, events like this, and be able to take that information and get it back into the product. So, kind of looking at those three areas for 2021, we really broke down our enhancements in these eight different initiatives. So if you look at overall Inventor Experience, we'll dive into each of these a little bit more granular. But the Inventor Experience with some of the modernization, some of the kind of continuing some of the work that we did last year, Revit, Inventor interoperability. We have a lot of customers that interact with construction, fabrication, needing to be able to start out with a Revit model or integrate better with the BIM ecosystem. And then I'd say that the bread and butter, the performance, part modeling, assembly, drawing creation, these are all areas that we focus on every release. We continue to focus on performance, making performance better across the board, part modeling and assembly capabilities, drawing. And then you also have things like frame generator and drawing automation. And I'll even extend the drawing automation. We look a lot at how we can automate the overall experience inside of Inventor. We did a lot in drawing automation this year, but we also do maybe more subtle things, like with the modern experience, we have presets. We have extended capabilities with iLogic. We look in every project that we do, we look for ways that we can automate and some of those mundane tasks, just speed those up for you. So, that's something that ongoing as we're doing these projects, we're looking for ways to automate, but we'll talk a bit about the drawing side of that. So I think with that, Nigel wanted to take a moment, have a poll on kind of the area that you're most interested or excited about. So Nigel, I'll let you take it from there for a second.
Yep, I'll go ahead and fire this off. So I know that I put that first poll up. We can talk about that a little bit while we're going through the second one. So specifically for that first poll, right, we had the majority of people who answered that said they were on 2020, followed by 2019, and then closely followed by 2021. So it's good to see a lot of people have adopted the 2021 release already. Kind of goes to show some of the data that Garen had showed us about people adopting the product early, even though, we're going through, work from home situation, and people are still able to move forward in version. So definitely excited to see that. And hopefully today we share a lot of really exciting information for you. So based on the information that we're getting so far, it looks like a lot of people, the majority of people are looking towards things like some of the automation for drawing automation and things like performance increases and just general part and assembly improvements. So really excited to see that come through. And let's go ahead and move forward. Garen, go ahead and take it away.
Great. I think also Nigel mentioned earlier, but we have a number of folks here to help answer questions. So as you have questions, you can go into the chat, just put them out there, and then at the end we should have some time for some open Q&A as well, and we'll read through some of those. So I'm sure there'll be a number of them come in. Okay, so kind of carrying on from the 8 initiatives that we're working on, the overall Inventor experience. Last year we focused a lot on the new property panel, and that was for extrude, revolve. There were a handful of commands that we introduced with that, and there are a few things with that. It really allows for some continuity across our various commands. Inventor, over the 20 years of existence, we've acquired a number of products. Different groups have built things, and maybe not as consistent as we'd like. So one thing with the property panel, it's allowing us to add some consistency, dock the panel wherever you want. It's also adding things like presets, which are helpful in a lot of environments. So you'll notice today we'll talk a little bit about different features that have introduced the property panel, and probably already know some of the benefits around that, but those are pretty great. Last year, we also introduced new icons, and consequently with that, we were looking at having some better continuity across other products like AutoCAD, Max, and we provided a lighter background. We had a lot of customers that were looking for a dark theme, and I think kind of as prompted a little bit more as we introduced the lighter theme last year. So we've introduced a preview, tech preview for our dark theme that you can go in and use. And we'll show a little video of that you can see kind of going about turning that on if you want to work in it. It's considered a tech preview primarily because, you know, over the last, see if we can get this to play. Over the last 20 years, you know, we've adjusted our lighter theme, making sure everything is nice and clear and easy to see. And there's a lot of work to make sure that we get, you know, all the nuances of, you know, if you think about like work geometry, sketching, constraints, even things like tool paths or, you know, glyphs in different apps. So just making sure that we've covered all the corner cases. So it is under preview. It'll be there all year. And then next year we'll roll that out as non-preview. But I think it looks pretty stunning. I actually really like the dark theme. A couple of things you'll notice: your browser, any of the property panels, any of those things will be darker. And I think adds some nice contrast between the model and the dark. And this was one of those funny ones that, you know, about 50% of the people liked it and the other 50% could care less. So it's a pretty polar feature of people liking it or not really caring. But it's in there if you want to use it. Love to hear your feedback. If there are areas, you know, some of those edge cases that maybe it's a little hard to see certain things, certainly give us feedback. We'd love to give feedback, and that's partly why it's under that preview. All right, let's carry on into the next section, AnyCAD for Revit. You know, for many years, we've had the ability to take Inventor models, lightweight them, and export them out as an ADSK file, an RFA, or an IFC file. But what about the other direction? You know, we could import Revit files, kind of, you know, it wasn't as clean as we would like. However, you know, we were getting a lot more customers that are doing prefabrication, working in the BIM, kind of the BIM space, and needing to start out, or would prefer to be able to start out by bringing in a Revit model and then doing work on top of that in Inventor. So that's what we've been working on the last year and a half, is, you know, making it seamlessly, you know, being able to bring that Revit model in. And, you know, a Revit model may be huge. So you don't necessarily want the entire building, you want parts of the building. So being able to really define what's important to bring in, have associativity. So if the Revit model changes, being able to update that and see that reflected in the Inventor model. So you can really coordinate back and forth between this architectural Revit model and whatever you're working on. So let's take a look at, well, real quick before we do that, some nice things here. You can choose what comes over. When it comes over, it's not just a big blob, it's actually categorized in your browser. So you can turn categories on and off. You can turn specific units on and off. So if you want to turn a wall off, you can go down to that specific wall, or you can say turn all walls off or turn all ceilings off. So, you know, it allows you to easily kind of filter out what you want and what you don't want. So with that, let's take a look at this video. This starts out as a large building inside of Revit. And, you know, we're just looking at the little circular shape there. It's going to be a coffee stand. So in Revit, we have the entirety of the building. They've baked in kind of like a view rep, a 3D view that allows you to just choose what you want. And then they're uploading this to BIM 360. So you can use BIM 360 to coordinate back and forth, or you can just save the file local on your desktop. The choice is yours. In this case, saving it up to BIM 360, opening it from BIM 360 in Inventor. You'll notice that we get a link option, so you can actually reference it in or just sever it and have as a static model. You can choose what 3D view you want. It's like a view rep. And then from there, you can open it up. So we only want a small portion of this. We bring that geometry in. You can see the browser, kind of how it's structured there. And then from here, we want to make basically we need to fabricate or design parts of a shade, a sunshade on top of this. So using tube and pipe or the frame generator, kind of lay out various components, put in, instead of concept members, being able to put in actual componentry, you know, run some simulation, make sure everything's going to work okay. And then, you know, we go back to Revit. The Revit user needs to make some changes. So maybe change that lower sunshade, maybe change the height of some of these things, being able to update that in Inventor, run some simulation on it. So we had kind of a mixture here where some of what we're showing was directly from Revit. We built on top of it. We have that associativity, and what was made in Inventor, we're able to lightweight and export and bring back into Revit. So, really having that nice coordination back and forth between Revit and Inventor, and being able to use BIM 360 or your local desktop to coordinate those files back and forth. And we can see that that section coming back into Revit. So this is something that we've heard over the years of tighter integration and being able to start out with a Revit model. Would love to hear your feedback if any of you are utilizing this. This is kind of phase one of this project, so love to get more feedback from you guys. But we're really excited about that. It's nice to have a deeper tie-in between different Autodesk products. Okay, onto some performance improvements. This is every year we work on performance. Last year we did some really great things with cross-section drawings, some really good drawing performance capabilities. This year is no different. There's some really nice things with assembly, part modeling, frame generator, tube and pipe, and other environments. So you'll see this data set, this packaging or barrel packaging system. Around 10,000 parts. We'll take it for a test drive and play around with that, inserting various components. But you'll see in here, open and update is faster, various assembly workflows, graphic navigation. So instead of having to go get a new graphics card, you will notice that performance in pan, zoom, orbit is faster. So let's take a look at a video here, and we'll see that assembly. We'll start out with about a 6,500 part assembly, 1,500 unique parts. And here we're just dropping in a lot of sub-assemblies. So we'll get that up to about 10,000 parts, just inserting those in. And the goal here was make it really, really fast and easy to bring the sub-assemblies in so that then you can constrain or move them in place. So you can see here, part count is going up from 6,500, we're at 8,500. This is real time, it's not sped up. So you can see just quickly inserting those in. And it's not just about inserting the components, some of the visual display. So, panning, zooming, orbiting around, maybe that you want to turn some components off. So being able to just go in, window select, turn sub-assemblies or components off. If you have view reps, you're wanting to turn, various components on and off that way. It's much the same, pretty instant, pretty quick. So, just trying to make those workflows really simple, really fast. Even going into things like we have a part feature that's been patterned, and we have an occurrence pattern at the assembly level on the left side. And you'll notice how fast it is once I change the part occurrence. I can update my assembly occurrence, and it just populates it really quick. So, a lot of those little things that you just wait, 5, 10, 15 seconds, really trying to smooth those out, get you working faster and not waiting for computes and various aspects. So those are just a few of the areas that you'll notice when you get in and start playing with it. Feedback we've heard from folks so far feels pretty snappy. People really like a lot of the performance stuff that we're getting in there. When we look at part modeling, again, this is an environment that we focus on every year. A couple of key things that we'll show today, and what we're showing today, this isn't it. You saw earlier over the last 3 years, 670 user-driven enhancements. That's not the only thing we've put in the product. So each release we're adding 100+ user-driven enhancements over the year. So we're showing a handful of those. You can go into the what's new. See even more. These videos are up on YouTube, so you can go back and dig in a little bit more. But these are just some of the key ones that we wanted to highlight today. Some of these are things like window select bodies and faces. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had a bunch of little faces, maybe brought in a surface and wanting to pick a bunch of faces to change the color. You have to do it one by one, holding the control key down, selecting all the components. If you mispick, deselect. Kind of a pain. So we've added the ability to just window select both faces and bodies. So small as that is, that can be a really nice time saver for you. And then we've also made some unwrap enhancements. So we introduced unwrap last year. You know, if you have complex sheet metal parts that you can't unfold with K-factor, you can now unwrap with this command and get really close to the final shape. You may want to tweak it a little bit from there. But we've also added the ability to lock down the holes so that it doesn't adjust the geometry. They're true holes and it doesn't deform them. So last year you could do one, now you can select multiple. So you'll see in the video in a minute where you can pick a number of those and it kind of flattens them out. And then a couple of other things, display extended information in the browser. So years ago, we added the ability to show extended information in the browser for like holes and extrusion and various features. So when you turn it on, you may see hole depth or hole type or things like that. We've had a lot of requests around extending that to work geometry. So if you wanted to see like the offset of a plane or something like that. So you can turn on the show extended names and see additional information for that work geometry. We've also, those of you that are utilizing MBD, we've had requests to be able to have customized properties available in MBD. So you may have customer or company specific information as an I property or some kind of property, custom property, and you want to display that in your MBD notes. You can now do that. So let's take a look at one more before we see the video. Sheet metal. This was I love this one. You know, when you're creating a sheet metal part, it may be that you have a flange at a particular angle and you want to make another flange at that same angle. You know, today you'd pretty much get out of the flange command, go back to the earlier flange and get the angle or measure the two edges to be able to get the angle, and then go back and create your new flange. Well, now you can actually select a referenced flange face that will adjust, the flange you're creating, and it's associative. So if the face that you've picked on the sheet metal part adjusts, you'll see the new flange that's referencing off of that will adjust as well. So, a subtle change, but really nice, especially if you're doing a lot of sheet metal components that have any kind of angles. So let's see some of these in action. Got our famous little packaging. And you can see here, we've got a gauge. It's got multiple bodies in here, number of faces. You can see we just windowed over with crossing, so it adheres to the left is crossing, right to the right is windows. But select a couple of the bodies, change their color, and we can do that pretty easily. Otherwise, it would take multiple picks. This one wouldn't have been too bad, really. You could pick a couple of edges, but imagine, or bodies, but imagine if you had quite a few of them you're trying to pick, that can get pretty tedious. So that window is pretty nice. Here, you'll notice the extended names in the browser. That was pretty quick. And then here's the unwrap, being able to unwrap it, kind of specify where the unwrap is going to be. So you can see you've got a little triad there. You can move that around. And then pick the edges, those holes that you want to lock down, and ground those. And then here's the sheet metal one where we've got one flange. We basically select the other flange to get the angle. And then I'm going to go back and that was pretty fast. Let's do that one more time and we'll pause it. So you can see we've got this initial flange. We're going to create another one that's going to use that edge or that face, and there we go. So we can see we've created the flange there. We changed the one that we've referenced off of, and the second one updates. So as easy as that, kind of nice. Here on the MBD side, so this is where we'll go in and add custom I properties. So, you may have a part number, designation, and then be able to see that in your MBD in the model, and that they will change as the I parts change. And then the other one here, if you use JT, kind of skip past it, but if you're exporting or importing JT format, you can now export and import MBD data at the part level with JT. So nice little enhancements with JT export to be able to import and export. All right, let's jump into the assembly modeling. A couple things on a few of the environments on the assembly modeling, really focusing on tube and pipe, assembly structure, file naming. Last year you saw us make some adjustments to that you can control file naming a bit more on things like frame generator and tube and pipe. We're extending that a bit more into move and copy, adding some more capabilities based on user requests around that. So those are some nice enhancements, I think, being able to control that. And then I think you all have probably had, you've saved something at one point and it's trying to save additional components that you don't know why they've changed. You now have some more options in there that you can specify what to prompt you for. So for example, you may not want it to prompt you on mass property updates, but you may want it to prompt to save on everything else. So you can come in and kind of choose what you want it to prompt you to save or not. And then it gives you it gives you a little bit more information when you're saving, why exactly it's saving that particular component or not. And then another nice one is in design accelerators. When you create your fasteners, it would capture everything in a subassembly, which in some cases is really nice, but in some cases, many of you wanted it to be flattened. So it just puts the nuts, bolts, washers at the assembly level and not nesting it in, creating another component and putting it as a subassembly. So now you have the option where you can actually turn it to be a flat level, that it's not creating any additional subcomponents for you. And then here's just some of the information around file naming. You'll see now in your options, you have frame generator, tube and pipe, mirror and copy, and you have a little more granular control over the naming of your files. So here's a little video that we can go through and see what that looks like. So we've got a little tube and pipe assembly. Here we're just showing some flex hoses. Not much has really changed there, but we'll go into a sub-component of this and be able to do that pipe run. Now, one of the things that's really nice is we are using the new property panel for this. So you'll notice when we go into it, it's utilizing that property panel and allowing you to create those pipe runs without getting out of the command. But while I was talking over that, let me slow that back just a little bit, and you'll see going into the save dialog as well. So it'll pop up, and you'll be able to see the mirror, copy, tube and pipe, and some of those changes. I don't know how many of you guys have played with this yet, but it is pretty awesome to be able to configure that to be company standard and something a little bit more meaningful. All right, so in here you can see the property panel for tube and pipe generating that pipe run. A couple of things that it provides, you can actually filter out. It allows you to have presets and filter things a little bit more with that, so it makes it easier and faster to choose and work off of your standards. Here's the bolted connection where you can pick edges. Not much has really changed on the selection. It's really just the creation of these on disk, and you'll see in the browser that all of those are at that subassembly level, all as individual components. So really just a structure thing there. All right, if I could do a live poll, I'd actually see how many of you guys were using bolted connection in some of the frame generators. All right, so here is in the application options, your additional options with save. So, your save state can show a bit more information on why it's saving something or not saving it. So those are some of the key things at the assembly level. Hopefully you guys, as we talked about, a lot of these are user driven. These are things that we've heard from you guys over the years, and really trying to enhance and make that an easier experience for you, and provide some of that automation, being able to get file naming, automate tube and pipe, the type of runs you're wanting to get out of there. So let's take a look at some of the drawing capabilities as well. So we're going to hit on a couple of things. Diameter dimensions, we'll see a nice little video of this, but if you've got a cylinder and you create a drawing view of that cylinder, you just have straight edges. Well, now if you pick those edges, it'll actually give you a diametric, the diameter symbol in the dimension by default. So it knows that that's off of a circular object. So it's kind of nice to be able to get that. Just kind of, not making you go in and manually put that diameter if you want it. And I know a lot of people just don't do it because it's extra picks and clicks, but it adds clarity in the drawing. So, it's nice to have. Align to an edge. You know, it used to be if you picked a couple of edges at an angle, you could say align and it would align between those two, but you didn't have any control over it. Now you can actually pick an edge to align a dimension to, which is really nice. The measure command has come back. So instead of having to place a dimension between some geometry to figure out what the measurement is, you can just go measure those now. And then we've made some adjustments to reference parts. So in the past, if you had something reference, it was, and you shaded the view, you didn't see the shading and you didn't have control over the line type. So we've made some adjustments around that we'll see. So let's come into our video to take a look at those enhancements. So here we'll show a little bit on the reference geometry. So in the bill of material, we'll be able to see that, you know, we'll turn one of these as a reference part. When we go into the drawing, we can see that it just shows it all as transparent. It's not part of the shading, but now you can go in and actually specify if you want it to be shaded with dashed edges or continuous edges, just have a little bit more control what that's going to look like. We've also added some capabilities to help automate with, or we made it easier to automate your center line. So we have an icon there that can allow you to go in and kick off your center lines. And then here's one of my favorites, just being able to pick a top edge, it pulls the diametric dimension off, pick the two side edges, also that diametric dimension, without having to go in and specify that. Here, this is pretty quick, but you'll notice picking a couple of edges and then the edge you want it to align to. You know, in the past when I would do that, sometimes I'd mispick or it wouldn't give me what I wanted. I'd need to do it a few times, but now you can actually select the edge that you want it to align to. So you should be able to get more what you're looking for there. And then, you know, just making it easier to copy and paste some of these notes for downstream use. So hopefully on the drawing side, that was helpful. Hopefully there are a lot of things you like. Here's the measure, being able to just use the measure command, pull off a couple of measurements off your drawing without creating actual dimensions. And we'll get in a minute, we'll hit some automation on setting up your drawings in a little bit more of an automated fashion. We'll come back to that one. First, we'll get into frame generator. We're kind of cranking through pretty quick. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, a lot of these videos are up on YouTube, so you can go back and reference them. Hear the great voice of Luke Mihalsik and Paul and some of our folks from the tech marketing team, but they are out there to reference later. So frame generator, there's been a lot of adjustments to the frame generator. Last year, we added a number of the areas in the property panel. You got presets and a number of things there. We've extended property panel out to pretty much all the other commands in frame generator. So things like insert frame, change frame, reuse, they all get the property panel. So, and I've mentioned this a few times, the nice value in that, when you go to dark theme, they all turn dark, all consistent there. You have presets so that, you know, if there are common things that you like to use with frame generator, you can have presets that really make it easy to grab certain frame member sizes, types that you use over and over. And then there are some nice enhancements to help kind of populate, preview, and reuse that geometry. And then, of course, we have the file naming that we've talked about. So, you know, and then some other biggies with trimming, extending to a curve. You know, that was something that was pretty tricky in the past. If you had a curved frame member and you needed to trim something back to it, wasn't easy. So now being able to have that all part of the trim and extend. And then the notch command now supports channels, T's and I's. So you can notch those back and pretty cleanly lay that out. So let's take a look at some of these enhancements. Famous little assembly today. But you can see the file presets. So, you know, some of you put in the project name, unique number, you know, you've got, you can kind of configure what you want your file name to be. If you guys haven't done this before, haven't seen this before, you can see how you can configure that file name. So in here on the frame member side, we've got a little skeleton model. We can select an edge. You'll notice you get nice previews. You know, it's come a long way over the years with being able to see a preview. Through the property panel, you can filter out a category so you can show just channels. And then you can actually zoom right into the member that you're placing so that as you're rotating it around, adjusting it, you have granular, you have a great preview and granular control on where you want that to be. And then you can zoom back out, it'll go out to a isometric view and you can see that in its entirety. So here we've populated it with a handful of members. We've got that curved member. We want to trim back to it. We want to notch with, you know, the channel or I or T frame, being able to notch and have that nice and clean. And then as far as reuse, you'll notice that we've got one member here that we want to reuse as many places as we can. So just select the geometry that doesn't have any frames on it. We can window select. It'll populate that wherever it can, looks at length and location and populates that. You know, it gets pretty close. Some of those you may need to go in and make some adjustments. It may not be exactly where you want. So this is where you can come in and easily rotate those around, make adjustments, zoom into them, and you know, make those granular adjustments that you need to. So reuse is great. Being able to just window select and have it reuse pretty fast. Our Detchen team has done an amazing job with Frame Generator the last couple of years, just making it better and better. All right. I'm guessing you guys, I'm seeing a number of questions in here. I think we're up to, well, I see 18. I don't know if that's 18 unanswered, but if you have questions, make sure you're putting them out there in the chat. We will open up here shortly for some questions and answers, but Chris and Dan and Lauren and Kyle are answering a lot of those. All right, this is a pretty fun one. You know, years ago, I don't know if it was release 1, but pretty close around release 1, we introduced these sheet sets where you could create a sheet set and kind of automate the creation of your drawings. That said, I think we kind of fell short in being able to provide enough capability that a lot of people didn't use it. So I don't know how many of you are even familiar with this today, but we did a lot of work this year around sheet sets and even have some extension into iLogic to be able to automate drawing view creation. So, you know, part of that is being able to create your own sheet set with the views, how you want the views laid out, various information. And then through iLogic, you can actually have it automate placing of parts lists, creating views from the model, flat pattern views, view settings, source components, fit views to sheet. So making sure that it's fitting them accordingly. So that, you know, there are a number of things there that you can do now to help automate this. You know, I know in the end of the day, drawings are still pretty critical for us, and you know, being able to automate that is pretty key. So, you know, through sheet sets, these are all the things you can automate, and then through iLogic, a lot of the dimension types, you can automate creation of dimensions, center line, center marks, various notes, and balloons. So you can get pretty far in just laying out the views and having it place various dimensions, leader notes, things like that. Is it going to get you 100%? Probably not. But it gets you really far to where you've just got some tweaking that you need to do and add a few things and get your drawings done pretty quickly. So with that, let's take a look at what that looks like. We'll start off with sheet sets. So this is going to walk you through actually creating a sheet set and then using a sheet set. So we'll take an open part and create a sheet set. You can see where the sheet sets can be found. So with this particular part, we're going to create a drawing and make a template here. You can see the sheet sets on the right side, so you can choose a sheet set that you want to work from. And then save that as a sheet set that you're going to use downstream. So once you've set up a sheet set, you can name it and then use it later. So you can see here kind of the placement of the views. You kind of lay out how you want the views in there. And then for new assemblies and parts, you can use that sheet set. It'll lay things out similar to the sheet set that you created. And then, you know, leveraging iLogic, you can have it help automate with some of these other things. So placing of dimensions, notes, balloons, you know, all these other additional capabilities. Here it's changing the sheet format. You can actually change the scale of things through iLogic, slider to slot, you know, give more space between views. And then, you know, even controlling things like text color, dimension color, you know, this is just something that somebody did in iLogic. So you could do, kind of lay it out however you want, but, you know, provide a lot of rich capability to help automation of that drawing. So hopefully you see a lot of value in doing that. And, you know, again, provide feedback, let us know what you like, let us know if there are gaps. And I'm sure there, as you guys go through it, there are probably some things that you'd like to see us do. And, you know, those are the types of things we love to see on the idea station, get people to vote up on them. And, you know, those, as we see the 370 number over the last 3 years, you know, that's how we get a lot of those requests. All right, so just kind of wrapping this up, you know, we've talked a lot on professional grade, just your meat and potatoes, the core capabilities inside of Inventor, connected things like MBD in parts, things like the BIM Inventor Revit interoperability, and you'll see over time we're doing more and more to connect various products and make it easier to get data from one application to another, and then, you know, that overall Inventor experience, just, you know, in this case, automation of drawings, easier to create dimensions and place dimensions, lay things out, dark theme, all those types of things. So hopefully you guys saw some really great things here. We're scratching the surface. You know, there's a bit more in there. So definitely go check out what's new in the help. But I think at this point we can open it up and see what kind of questions folks have. I don't know if there are any unopened or unanswered questions, so we can probably get Nigel and some of our Autodesk folks to help out here.
Absolutely. Let's take a look. I know that everyone in the back end, Chris, Dan, Kyle, and Lauren, have been pretty busy answering these questions here in the background, so we don't have a super crazy backlog. But if you do have any questions, definitely feel free to type them into the Q&A panel, and we'll go ahead and address the ones here, and then any that require any further communication from either us or our friends over at Autodesk, we'll go ahead and square that away. So it looks like a number of people are asking about the drawing configuration form that you had. Is that like a snippet that exists already, or is that something that can be shared? What?
I was just going to jump in and answer that one, but yeah, I was typing it in and I'll answer it live. Yeah, so what you saw there was sheet formats. Sheet formats exist in Inventor for forever, but we just realized with talking with lots of customers, people weren't aware of the functionality. So it's under the drawing resources inside of a drawing template. And what this does is what we did for Inventor 2021 was bring it to the forefront and make you aware that they're there. In addition, we addressed, you know, some of the limitations where you couldn't save a parts list within it, or you couldn't support flat pattern views of sheet metal flat patterns. So now with those fixes, you can be able to just essentially create those sheet formats, and then on a file open with a new template, you can select from a list. So you can name them as you wish. In addition to, while creating the sheet formats, when placing your views within that sheet format, you have the ability to specify whether you want that view to fit the sheet itself. So again, it's just some nice new improvements to the sheet formats, but also bringing it to the forefront so you can kind of see thumbnails and the names displayed when you select any template that contains them. In the past, if you know users, maybe your administrators didn't leverage them and you can delete them from your template. That's also possible, but if you do look in your drawing resources, you might see some sitting there that aren't being leveraged. But they are in product. Yeah.
Drawing resources. Thanks, Dan. That takes care of, I think, like 3 or 4 of the questions that came through. So
yeah, I think the question was on the actual iLogic form though, not on the sheet formats. So the iLogic form, that was a custom form that was built with the new iLogic drawing rules that were created in functionality. I'm not aware if we've posted that form publicly anywhere, any of the snippets, but we can check with the team and see what we can do about posting it.
cool. And I'll follow up with the Autodesk team directly. If that's something that they have, we'll go ahead and draft up a follow-up email for all of the attendees today and get that squared away if that's something that our friends at Autodesk can share with us. There's a lot of, so there's a comment here. It's like, on the limitations of Content Center, is woodworking hardware? Is anyone that required content for woodworking has to create, search, find for parts online? Anything there, Garen and the rest of the team?
Yeah, we haven't done anything specifically around woodworking, and that was, you know, we have a lot of your standard nuts, bolts, washers in various standards. You I don't want to say niche, but, in things like woodworking, however, there may be a lot of customers that utilize those. We haven't built any library or anything around that. I'm guessing you can probably, as you say, there are probably some of those out there that you can find and build your own library. But yeah, that's not something that we've done. I don't know that we have any plans on doing anything like that right now.
And in regards to like woodworking too, we worked with a lot of customers who are in that space. So if there's any questions, definitely you can reach out to us here at KETIV directly, and we can see if any of our customers have found success doing one particular thing over another. We have a couple that we can reference and talk to about some of those woodworking workflows specifically. Question, are all of these enhancements available in both the full Inventor version and those available for educational people?
Yeah, so 2021, what you see here is available for both.
And then additionally too, a lot of the questions that have been put in are like, are you guys looking at improving X, Y, or Z? Garen, did you want to go over how people can go ahead and add some of those things to the Inventor Ideas? I think that would be really useful to show some of the audience here today.
Yeah, I mean, that's out at the idea station, kind of the idea behind that is we get a lot of requests. That's one of our biggest challenges. We get hundreds of requests for X, Y, and Z. And we found that we were the bottleneck trying to go through all of that. So the idea station helps us out a lot. You can go out to the idea station, you can post your idea. Yeah, the thinking around that is, depending on how interesting that is to other people in the community, they vote it up. And we pay pretty close attention to, kind of the things that are getting voted up and look to be pretty popular out there. And, a lot of what you see today comes from folks putting something out in an idea station. It gets voted up, a number of votes, and then, we introduce it into the product. Now, there's some caveats. There are some things out there that are really good ideas and really expensive to do. And there are some things that maybe aren't as popular, but are really simple for us to do. So we kind of have to balance, from a product management standpoint, the different projects we have going on, the size and complexity. But yeah, a lot of what you see in the product today is direct requirements and enhancements that come from the idea station.
Yeah, I think when I was looking at the idea station, I think the dark theme was like the most upvoted thing I'd ever seen. So that's something that I know a lot of people asked about. So yeah, definitely. If we have a lot of customers who, when they reach out to us with support cases for some limitation maybe that they found within the product, we definitely point them in that direction to go ahead and put it in Inventor Ideas, or any of the other product ideas as well. And sometimes those things get included in the next release. So if you don't say anything, no one's going to see it. So that's something I definitely urge all of the users out there to do. If there's something you want to see in the product, these people are listening. So go ahead and put your ideas out there, and if people hear you, or if people like it, they'll upvote you too. It'll get put into the product.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of the folks that are on the call today. Chris, Kyle, Dan. We have Johnson Shui. There are a lot of Autodesk folks that pay close attention to that, and kind of bubble these things up and help us out. So we definitely spend a lot of time out looking and seeing what's going on, what people are asking for, trends. That helps when we're planning next release too. Are we hearing a bunch of things around drawings or parts or assemblies? That kind of helps us evaluate where we need to focus some of our development resources.
Absolutely. This question from Michael here. Any improvements around point clouds and or mesh files in the future? Currently, sometimes people are using AutoCAD for this purpose over Inventor.
Yeah, Dan, I don't think we've done anything around point cloud or mesh in this release. Anything that you can think of, Dan?
No, nothing for this year.
I'd be really interested to see what that workflow looks like. I had a customer with a really complex point cloud workflow that we're helping develop a plan for those people to get from a scanned point cloud to actually manufactured using some of the workflows within the product design manufacturing collection. So if that's something you want us to take a look at for you, Michael, let us know, and we can see if we can use some of the things we learned from this current project and apply it to some things that you're trying to do as well.
Great.
Austin asked about in 2020 you can edit with Frame Generator to edit a member you have already placed. One thing you can't do is reselect where the members should be located in the frame. In other words, I can't go into edit with Frame Generator to build the member based on a different leg of my wireframe. Is that now possible with 2021? So there's certain workflows. The reuse member workflow, we did improve a number of usability improvements in that area with respect to the previews and the orientations. Obviously, when you get into adding notches or end conditions to the to your frame members, that can affect where the reuse situation might be if it was trimmed to another frame or dependencies. So if you can't get a certain function, let us know with respect. You know, again, I know there's certain functions that it should behave, the reuse should be possible. Typically what you do is you lay out your base frame and then apply end treatments at a later stage. And that kind of helps the process a little bit, but it should work. But I can't, without seeing the exact workflow, you can feel free to send us an email or send us the data that you have in question, but it feels like it should work.
All right. Any updates to possibly revision clouds? Any thoughts about including that in the software? I think that's come from like 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, we've heard, you know, we hear about it a little bit. I think as we're doing more and more around construction and factory, you know, it's something that we need to look at, but we don't have any plans, anything we can share right now. I think it's more something for us to do a little research and see what we need to investigate and look at.
Yep, and that kind of brings up another thing too. Sorry to cut whoever that was off, but if there's something that you, like we just said, if you want something in the product, it would be really interesting to see what you want in the product and why, like how that really affects your workflow. I know people have brought us that. It's like, hey, we want this. And then we ask them why. And sometimes people come up with these really, it's like, we'll save X amount of time on this process. And that if that time is considerable enough, then either, you know, we'll talk to people at Autodesk, maybe make that solution, and maybe even put together a custom solution for those people to be able to fix that too.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we also look at the collection has various products, and, you know, some of these workflows may be better served in a different application in the collection or an Autodesk application. So, you know, some of these we look at that way too. Do we have other parts of Autodesk that, you know, are handling that already? So I think better understanding what the request is, what you need, and then we can go from there.
And it looks like Rodney asked a question. Sorry, there's the lawnmower next door is going off. The dogs are going crazy. But any plans to import Tekla files? I guess that brings up another thing. I know that you guys added AnyCAD for Revit this release. Any plans on the roadmap for that moving forward for other, you know, file types?
Yeah, I mean, we would like to make it easier to get data back and forth across things like Tekla, Advanced Steel. So certainly something that we're looking at. For this release, you know, we were really focusing on Revit to Inventor workflows. But yeah, you know, we'd love to hear feedback on Advanced Steel, Tekla, kind of what that workflow would look like for you, what you'd want to bring over. Those are all of interest to us.
And here's a side note from Brian Kelly too. Is there a way within Zoom's chat panel to copy text? I know that's been a problem for me in the past, and I've talked to them about it. So
you might have to get on. I'm sure they have an idea station. Just go to zoom.com, look for their idea.
/ideas. I like that. So yeah, I've always had some trouble with that as well, but hopefully you got that URL squared away. And so here's a question too. Is there ANSYS environment available for Inventor models for simulation? And so like Chris said in that comment too, is there's been recently an agreement between ANSYS and Autodesk for a connection with the product Fusion 360. So ANSYS does open Inventor and Fusion 360 files. Actually, here at KETIV, we're both Autodesk and ANSYS partners, so we're definitely excited to be part of both sides of that workflow. So there is some of those connections within the simulation environment. It would be really interesting to understand what you're trying to do. And maybe in that case, maybe use some of the ANSYS workflows that they've created, or possibly some of the built-in simulation in Inventor. I know with the product design manufacturing collection, you have access to Inventor and Astran. So. Oh, Rodney is you can right-click copy, right? He said you can right-click copy in Zoom. I can't do that, so unfortunately, unfortunate.
Maybe it's a Mac PC.
Maybe.
OS,
but I'll talk to them about that. I know that we put a lot of links in the chat box sometimes, and sometimes people have issues clicking them. So, all right, let's go ahead and answer a couple more questions before I let everybody go here. I'll give you another 30 seconds to ask any that you do have, so type fast.
I'll take one more. There was would sheet formats allow a parts list? Remember to sort on update. Crazy that it's not currently a style option, but this may be a workable fudge. So just the comment is, yeah, we know this is a setting that is invoked on a parts list after creation, and it is not currently a style setting. So we know that there's been some requests with respect to how the parts list is ordered with respect to the header on the bottom, going upward, and or the header and the top in the sort order. That one today is currently still an option at the parts list level. It's not a style option. So just to answer that question. So we're getting there, taking progression steps. If you need that, please let us know. I'll make a note of it. I've seen the request to make the style option for resort, but understood that when you add new components that you want it to reorder. So we'll make a note. Thanks.
And just to comment on the various people asking about that iLogic file, it is actually posted as part of the standard Inventor samples downloads. So if you just Google Autodesk Inventor samples, it's the first file that comes up on that page. We have a standard samples page that covers various aspects of the product, and we just added the iLogic sample there.
Nice.
I'll put it in the chat, but people are struggling to copy and paste, so Google should find it.
There you go. Additionally, too, I think this is a really good opportunity. I know we've talked about Inventor Ideas. Do we want to talk about how people can access maybe software that is in the development stage, maybe join some of the beta program stuff? I don't know, Garen, if you wanted to go over that before we let everybody go here.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So if you go to beta.autodesk.com, you can sign in to be a beta participant. And part of that, throughout the year, we have different projects that we're working on, looking for feedback on. In some cases, you can download the software. In some cases, we have what's called frame builds that you just, in a browser, you launch it and run everything from the browser. Pretty convenient to be able to do that. But yeah, we're looking for as much information as, feedback as we can when we're kicking off these projects. So if you're not part of the beta community, certainly love for you to go out there, participate, find the projects that you're interested and passionate about. And then, sometime we've been doing fairly regular inside the factory, what we call inside the factories. They're webinars right now where, we have a small group of customers focused in on a certain area, and, we'll brainstorm. Sometimes we don't even have working software. We're brainstorming of, workflows, kind of lay out what we're thinking and getting feedback from you guys on as early as possible. So yeah, I think it's a great thing for you to do if you want to help guide the direction of future direction of Inventor.
Absolutely. So again, I'd like to just thank everybody for joining us today, from both the attendee standpoint and all of our friends over on the Inventor team at Autodesk. It's always a pleasure. I'm sure that this is one of those webinars that a lot of people had marked on their calendars and we're looking forward to. With that, I'd like to just thank Garen and the rest of the team for putting this all together for us.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for participating, and KETIV for allowing us to talk about our newest version. We love it.
Absolutely. Thanks again so much. Definitely be on the lookout. We're going to be doing some webinars over the next couple of months, highlighting some of the workflows Garen showed today. I know that we're going to be working with Garen a little bit on some of the Revit Inventor workflow as well with our friend here, Jeff, on our team in the next couple of weeks. So definitely keep on the lookout for that if that's something you're interested in. And with that, definitely stay safe, everyone. I'm excited to start using 2021 and continue to use those products. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to us or reach out to our support line here at KETIV, and we'll definitely get those answered for you. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.